Hello everyone, it's Rafael Gutierrez. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the lower limb, the leg. I've actually drawn a couple of the images here, which I'm going to talk about just so I can go a little faster. Now, if you are interested in the leg, and this is more for athletes, not just martial artists, because these are injuries that can happen to anyone, I would actually recommend going to the tissues of the bones first, then going to the foot, and this is going to actually be from the pretty much the foot all the way to the end of the leg. And I am going to talk about injuries, but it actually will help you if you go back to the ligaments and all the other structures, as well, it'll be easier to talk about. Now, first thing I actually want to tell you is this. I know it's a really cartoon drawing. You can actually see that I made the second metatarsal really long. I actually only drew the talus here because I'm really only interested in these two bones. Big thing I want you to see is you can see that there's a flat surface here. I'll make it with green. Hopefully it won't fall. Flat surface here. And a bone coming here. Now you'll notice that this bone, I actually made sure it followed the second digit. The reason is this. The tibia is the main, which is this bone here, which I made a T through. The tibia is actually the main weight-bearing joint of the lower leg. It goes into the talus, into the calcaneus, and the metatarsals, and then into the leg. You'll notice that this here is a tibia. I put M for medial, which means it's on the inside portion of the leg. You'll notice it's a lot thicker. You'll also notice a big lump here, which I'll talk about later. Now, there's a little bone that lies, and I'm using lies for a reason, right next to the tibia. Now, the tibia is a weight-bearing one. The one that lies next to it, the one that looks like it's actually going to be weight-bearing, but it's not, is a fibula. So if you think about the fib being a little lie, the fibula is a little bone that lies next to the tibia. The tibia is a weight-bearing one, the fibula is not. Now, why is this so important, that line that I made right down the middle of the tibia and into the second metatarsals? Well, if you're in martial arts, you'll actually know that a lot of people tell you bend your knee and make sure it goes over your second metatarsal, your second toe. The reason is, if you do that, it actually lines up really nicely. It's at the most structurally sound arrangement, pretty much. Now, you do have these two lumps. One of them is called the medial malleolus, as it's on the medial side. This is a medial malleolus. On the other one, you have the lateral malleolus. Medial malleolus is part of the tibia. Lateral malleolus is part of the fibula. If you were to grab your knee and go all the way down, you'd actually be able to feel the tibia all the way down. Now, what that means is the tibia isn't protected by any muscles. And here's an interesting thing. Even though the tibia is a lot thicker than the fibula, usually if one of those two bones is going to break, it's going to be the tibia. The reason is it doesn't have the muscular protection. This is actually telling you one of the things that I talked about when we talked about punching. Well, when you go straight, you need the alignment to be great. But if you're actually using areas that have muscles, you can actually protect the bone using the muscles. So, for instance, a bottom fist, you have the muscle here, so it may be easier not to break your bones. Now, you do have ligaments here, and I won't go into the talofibular ligaments, or I'm just going to tell you have ligaments that actually hold these things in place. And ligaments are really strong connective tissue. And sometimes people will roll it. If you actually roll it going medial, which is actually a motion called supination, you can tear that ligament, or you can actually sprain it or strain it. Sprain and strains are technically overpulled ligaments. Tears means the ligament is done. Now, if you sprain or tear any of these ligaments, one of the big problems is they never really heal quite so well. If you're a runner and you sprain an ankle, you know that you're going to get a lot of other sprains. Looks like I have some. No, just a shadow. You can actually get some sprains that come back over and over again, even when you don't do something as bad as when you did it the first time. Now, there's actually something neat that I can talk about here. And if you do Naihanchi, there's actually a way you can almost cause this. And I'll let you figure that out for yourself, unless you really want me to. I'll explain later. But if you actually can get someone to roll their ankle with weight on their foot, you can end up getting the two malleoluses to break. For a self-defense scenario, the good thing about that is if someone's two malleoluses are broken, they're not going to be able to stand so well. They're not going to be able to move. So a lot of the techniques are going to be limited. So let's go to the top of the tibia, and we see the plateau, and we see this little thing coming up called the tibial eminence. And I'm going to grab another marker, because what I want to do is I want to put this bone here. Now, you'll notice that I did draw this bone at an angle. Big thing to remember is the tibia might be perpendicular, but the femur is actually going at this angle away from the midline. So if you actually use your femur to try to line up, the alignment's going to be really off. Now, if you look at the joint between the femur and the tibia, you'll actually see structure here. Something that looks like this. You do have the patella, which is a kneecap over that. And one of the things with this is you'll notice that it's not really too stable. It's pretty much a loose joint being held together by ligaments and muscles. There's really no bones really holding anything together. If you take your elbow, for instance, on the opposite, you can see your ulna actually fits into the humerus. It actually has a nice hinged joint where it actually comes up and down around my hands here. This one, it's the two part bones are actually pretty loose. What holds it together are the ligaments. And there's actually there's a couple of really important ligaments. And this one starts medial, then comes to the front here, which is called the anterior cruciate ligament. If you speak Spanish and you've heard the word cruz, or if you're a Catholic and you know about a crucifix, or if you actually know what a crucifix is, you know cruz means cross. The anterior cruciate ligament tells you it's on the front. Behind it, you do have the posterior coming here. Then you have two lateral ligaments. Now, these two lateral ligaments are called the medial collateral ligament and lateral collateral ligament. They can also have another name, the tibial collateral, fibular collateral, up to you what you want to call it. Between this joint, you have fiber cartilage. Now, if you remember the tissue, fiber cartilage was that thick, heavy cartilage which was made to maintain that pretty much a heavy weight. So you have the heavy weight being actually cushioned with fiber cartilage. And within the fiber cartilage, in there, I guess I'll use red. In here, fiber cartilage is attached in this to the femur with these little caps, little connective tissue structures coming in here. And one of the things that happens is this. This is a great arrangement because it does work for the most part. But if you are actually a person who likes to watch sports, especially if you like football, you might remember that in clipping. The lateral outside getting hit here is illegal in football. The reason is, if you do get that hit, that causes this joint to open up this way, causing a stretch of this ligament. So the medial collateral ligament breaks, the medial meniscus rips, and the anterior cruciate ligament rips. Again, just destabilizing the knee. This is actually another one of those points that is really important if you're dealing with self-defense scenarios. Now, there are other ways you can damage the knee, and one of those is by twisting. So, for instance, sometimes you see people do roundhouse kicks, and they don't hit a target. They spin through, and they plant their foot on the ground. That can end up causing tears in the ACL, PCL, a lot of ligaments in there. You can actually see these injuries in things like soccer, for instance, when someone kicks, twisting, and twists the leg. Now, like I said, the tibia can actually be broken. And for those of you who like MMA, you may have already seen someone kick someone with the tibia, hit something hard like this area down here of the femur, and get the tibia to bend like this. Now, bones don't bend. So when you see that bend, that bone is broken. Problem with that break, by the way, is when the bone is broken and they land, it ends up breaking this other bone here, the fibula. So not something you want to do. Now, coming back here, you can actually see where I drew the femur. you actually have two knuckle-like projections called the condyles, and there's a little thing called the epicondyles. Those you can actually feel at the base of your knee, on the side of your knee, if you feel it. And then if you go all the way to the top, you have these two little lumps called the trochanters. Those are places for muscle attachments. And you'll notice that I made this at an angle. That does come at an angle. You'll notice that you have what looks like a neck here. Unlike the humerus, this has an obvious neck and a head. Now, this arrangement works pretty well. The one thing to notice is this bone very rarely breaks unless you have some underlying pathology or if you're in a motor vehicle accident. The reason is, again, this is pretty much covered by some of the biggest bones in your body. Biggest muscles in your body, not bones, biggest muscles in your body. If you take the femur, it's probably about the size, and for most of us, it's about the size of a $50, a quarter. But if you feel your leg, you'll notice that even the skinniest person has a lot more meat on there than the bone. And so you're not going to break this too often. When it does break, it's usually due to if it's otherwise healthy, motor vehicle accident, which means you're going at such a high speed, the force comes in here, and it causes a break of the neck. The other way this actually breaks is through, if you're osteoporotic, if you have low bone densities, you can go to stand, and that stand causes a break of your hip, and then you fall. It's not the fall that breaks your hip, it's a hip that causes a fall. So that's actually most of what I was going to talk about. The other thing to actually know is the head here is covered with fiber cartilage, which can be killed off. A lot of times it's killed off by abnormal movements. You also have some really unusual blood work, which if you're interested, I'll talk about later. I hope you enjoyed this video, and any questions, please put them on comments. If a couple of people have asked me if they could share these videos, please feel free to share. I love sharing my information and hope that I can give you something that you find worthwhile. Well, have a nice day. What do you think?